Welcome. Today I would like to talk about policies. So policies in VROPS pretty much controls everything from what the data is being collected, how the badges react, for example, and capacity remaining thresholds. Policies are basically a set of rules that defines on how the information will be displayed. VROPS, although it comes with its own base settings, the base setting cannot actually be changed. So this is where we would override them with our new policies. There is a default policy which will allow us to make changes. I wouldn't recommend that. I'd always recommend creating a new policy and then making any changes you wish in there. So I'm going to create two policies today. We'll start with a production and one for test dev. So once you're logged into your VROPS environment, head over to the administration panel, and then on the left click on policies. So we first of all see our active policies here. So let's click on our policies library. These are all the predefined policies that are built in. So let's click add, and we need to give this a name. So I'm going to call this one Blue Wire production. Give it a description if you wish. Let this derive from a base policy if you wish, but we don't. Click on analysis settings. Under the cluster compute resource, click on all object types. This is where we can define how these look. To make changes, you need to click on the lock icon. This is your workload threshold. I do recommend clicking on the hyperlink. It'll give you a better description of what it's actually doing. If you wish to override the workload settings, just click on the lock icon and you can move these thresholds where you see fit. If I look at time remaining, so we look at the default values here. These are all set in days, by the way. This is new to 8.1. We can see that amber is off. Anything in the grey area is generally not in use. So we got red of a score of 90 days. So you'll be alerted once 90 days and this time remaining reaches that. Will flag up as an alert or in the dashboard as one of the badges. We've got amber, so you'll be sort of warned at 120 days. So I'm going to set mine to 110 days. I'm happy with 90 days there. So we click on capacity remaining, and we can see these are the default values. So we get a red warning pretty much at 0. So you probably want to set that. We get a warning at 10% here, so I'm going to move mine to 20%. Orange amber warning 10%, and I want some leeway, so let's move this . So that is effectively the badges. You can adjust these to sort of any object you want. This is on the cluster compute resources, so you can do this on host VMs. So that is effectively the analysis settings. So if we go down, I'll come back to workload automation, start with number 5, collect metrics and properties. We've pretty much got attributes for everything here. You can see here there's a high number of objects to choose from in metrics, 741. So we need to narrow that down. I'm going to be searching for virtual machines, so that will be under my vCenter adapter. I'm going to find virtual machines, and this instance I'm going to look for the CPU utilization util. So that's brought it down to 17. So I'm looking for an average over 15 minutes. So this one. So you can see whether these are inherited from the base policy or not. This isn't, but I am going to change this to ignore inherit and take it from this policy, or we can turn this feature off. So we're going to have local on this one, and then I want to do memory. So we do memory usage, that's inherited. Let's do this one, local. So we have a chance to override our alerts and symptoms. We can see all these have been inherited from the policy above. In our case this would be the base policy. If we really wanted to add it into our policy, we can just change this to local or exclude it completely. That's the alert definitions. We can also amend the symptoms definitions down here. You might decide to adjust the symptom value here for this policy without overriding the policy above, and you can do that here. So the last thing in this list here is how we are going to apply this to a group. Now, we created the groups earlier under our web servers, so we just tick our web servers group and we click save. So our policy is now assigned to machines based in that group that will now apply to our objects which are in that policy. If ever you want to see what effective policy is applied to an object, you can just browse to anything in the list. So let's go to our inventory, host clusters. So we find the machines that are effectively in that group. So we put the web servers in there. So if we look in the top right here, we can see the policy for the web server is in the BlueWire production. It should be the same for the other web server, whereas all the other machines should be on the default policy here. If we go to our groups, we expand our group here, web servers, and again in the top right we hit BlueWire production. So when we look at the policy inheritance, we look at the order in which the policies are. So let's head back over to our policies. These are our active policies, and we can see here that priority 1 is our BlueWire production. This takes precedence over anything below. So in our instance, the policy, all the machines applied to the BlueWire production policy will take priority over the default policy. So I'm just going to create my second policy. This one's going to be for the test servers, so underscore BlueWire test machines. We're just going to search for machines that contain test box. So there's 3 there. We want to include them into our new policy. So the group created, we now create a new policy. So I'm just going to adjust some of these metrics so we can have these a little bit less, and then again the same. So I'm going to change the metrics for the CPU and the memory. So again, the memory consumed, guest demand, and apply that to our group. So to see if this has been applied, we can just browse objects in our inventory. We can click one of our test box machines and we can see here that the policy has been applied. So that's policies. If you experience any unexpected behaviour, I would just check the order in which they are applied. The most specific ones towards the top, company generic wide ones are usually at the bottom. Also just check to make sure that you've assigned the policies to the correct groups. So they're the first point of troubleshooting steps. Anyway, right, thanks for watching.